Hello, everybody. Thanks for joining us today. I can see people logging in here and now, so that's good. Whilst you're logging in, can just come and say hello in the chat box and let us know where you're dialing in from. It's always good to see where we're broadcasting to. So as I say, thanks for joining us, and especially thanks to Alice for joining us today. And as a bit of a background, Alice and I started talking about 6 months or so ago, and we decided to be good for Alice to come on to the Business Support Network during Mental Health Awareness Week. And Alice did a great session for us then, which became one of our most popular shows, as it were, on the Business Support Network. We had I lost count of how many people logged on to the live show. So it was a very popular session. For those that don't know Alice, I'm sure Alice will give a great introduction of herself, but she is a stress management coach and has gone on to be a co-author of a best-selling book. She's got an amazing podcast, and her website has taken on some changes recently, and she's introduced a membership side of things as well. So I'm sure Alice will tell you all about that. So it's an absolute honor to have Alice back with us today, chatting about stress and stress management. So thank you in advance. As always, no one's here to listen to little old me. It's all about our guests. So Alice, thank you. Over to you. The stage is yours, basically.
Well, thank you so much for having me. I'm so happy to be able to support you all today. As Paul said, I'm Alice, and I'm a stress management and holistic performance coach, speaker, podcaster, and author. And I help leaders and professionals and corporations to strip away stress and find balance so that they can be the calm and charismatic and successful leaders of their life and work. Because as we all know, it's all about the whole picture, not just about the work. So that's what I do, and I'm going to talk to you today about why stress really matters to prevent it, some of the common myths around stress that you won't actually be realizing you're doing, and also looking at some really great tactical tools, actually quite a lot today. So if you don't have a pen and paper, I'd suggest you get one, because you'll probably want to write them down. And also I'll tell you a bit first about my story and what makes me qualified to talk to you beyond qualifications about stress and this side of things. So before we start, I'd love for you all to just take a moment for yourself. So just relax your shoulders, close your eyes for 1 second, and just take a big deep breath in through your nose, hold for 2, and breathing out through your mouth. And just repeat that one more time. Just take a big deep breath in through your nose, hold for 2, and just exhale, release. And just be really present for this next 45 minutes to an hour. Put your phone on airplane mode. This time is for you. And just thank yourself for showing up for your own well-being today. So stress for me, growing up, stress was never really a part of my life. Apart from the usual teenage growing pains, I was very, very lucky. I had a fortunate upbringing, and stress wasn't a part of my sort of daily modus operandi. But outside stresses in our life, which are the events that cause us stress, things like work, health, financial pressure, divorce, loss of a job, moving home, death of a loved one. These are all examples of what we call macro stresses, the big things in our life. And they can come in every dimension of our lives unexpectedly at any time, as we all know. What I wasn't expecting was for them to be in every dimension of my life at the same time. And in my early 20s, they sadly came in mass. So over the past 10 years, like so many people, I suffered some deep losses, and extreme stress was a continual factor of my life. From my eldest sister sadly being diagnosed with cancer, losing her after a 4-long-year battle, to sudden financial struggles, losing my home, the subsequent depression of my father from severe stress, work stress, followed by redundancy, the end of a relationship, an ongoing legal battle for our family, it felt like no stone was being left unturned. And I realized I had stress in every dimension of my life at once. And what I found was that my happiness was quickly disappearing. And I was living in a continual state of stress, anxiety, and from time to time, depression. But it was during this time that I realized that something had to change, and that with everything else going on around me being seemingly out of my control, then that something would have to be me. So I went on a mission to be able to cope and deal with stress and understand it better. And I found a new way of thinking, of being and doing. And I immersed myself in studying everything I now teach, and from mindset to coaching to mindfulness, spirituality, and energy healing and more. And from this, putting it all together in my own way after I studied, I've learned, discovered and trialed what I now know to be not only the best ways to cope with stress, but also to prevent it going forward. And I'm going to talk about that quite a bit today. So it's all about, as I said, being able to prevent it during times of manage it during times of adversity, and to prevent it during everyday life as much as possible, so that we can live in our peak state of clarity and calm. And in order to do that, we have to connect to ourselves on an inner level and change our responses on an outer level. Finally, after losing my own father to stress-related illness just over a year ago, having watched him have a long 5-year battle with stress, damaging effects on both mind and body, I've seen firsthand how truly, truly debilitating and tragic it can be. And it is now my mission to help as many people as possible to disidentify from stress and live in their natural state of calm and happiness. And that's not to say we won't get stressed from time to time. Of course we will, we're all human, but it's not about that. It's about learning to respond instead of react. And it's about how quickly we can bring ourselves back to calm and lessen the effects of stress on our emotions, our mentality, and before our bodies have to tell us that something wrong, so that you can reach your greatest potential in both your personal and your work life. So stress today is a completely different ballgame. We live in a time where stress has become the new normal. Your alarm goes off, you fumble towards the sound, your alarm is either your phone or next to it. And as you open your eyes, the first thing you see is the bright light of your phone next to you. In an instant, you have gone from being in a deep, restful sleep to being in a state of stress and tired alertness. Does that sound familiar? And if not, you're probably the exception rather than the norm. Because modern day 21st century life, it's very tough on the mind. Stress is increased because of all the stressful information that is constantly available to us, being shown to us. We fill our minds with stressful information and are always being bombarded with noise and light, from emails to news to WhatsApps to Facebook groups to everything. We are information overload these days. Instead of taking space, we drown our thoughts continually with the news articles, the text messages, the emails, the updates. The information overload eventually plays havoc on our mental health and stress levels, because we've never dealt with this as a human race before. We know that nourishing our bodies with good food and exercise is important to maintain its health, but we don't give the same respect to our minds, which is the very thing holding us all together. So we need to give our mental fitness the same attention as we do our physical fitness. And where the body needs food, your mind needs stillness. It's really that simple in that little sentence. And I know that sounds like, oh, if it was that simple, but in terms of what it actually needs, that's what we need to give it. So yet so many people, all of us, feel that we're somehow being lazy or not doing enough if we're not giving, when we're not giving our minds, proper time to go over millions of things and flooding it. But giving your minds the proper care it actually needs to not only function to its optimal capacity, but also to put ourselves into a relaxed state and be able to subsequently deal with stress more effectively, which is what we all want. The reality, though, as we all know, is that unless you're living on a beach somewhere in the middle of nowhere with no distractions, no emails, no stresses, multiple emails and work things going on, personal things going on, then whether you want to or not, you are flooding your system with what we call micro stress doses all day, every day. So macro, as I said, are the big life events, the things that really cause us stress that are very obvious. We also have then we have micro. So micro is the little things every day that cause you stress that you don't realize are flooding your system. So these are the emails coming in. It's that alarm first thing in the morning. It is losing your car keys. It is the wrong thing being on the supermarket shelf. All these little things are what we call micro stress doses. And they can build up over time. And that's what I'm going to talk to you about a bit later. But in the olden days, what would put us into a stress state, so our fight and flight stress response, which is the body's automatic stress response when it thinks we're under threat, would be an immediate threat, something for survival, like a lion, coming out of the bushes, or an opposing tribe coming to attack. We'd need our brains to tell us to look for the negative, to look for the threats around us to keep us safe. And when that response is triggered, our body is stimulated to produce a flash of stress hormones like cortisol. And these simply boost our body's alertness, our heart rate, send oxygen to the right areas, send blood away from the stomach, because why would you need to digest a steak if you're running away from a lion, is your body's natural logic. But when our stress response is constantly being activated, then it affects and results in wear and tear of the body, and this causes headaches, heart problems, stomach ulcers, digestive problems, sleep problems, weight problems, and more. And the pressure can make us feel mentally overwhelmed, unable to cope. It can damage our ability to make clear and good decisions, make us irritable, and even affect our memory. I don't know if any of you have ever been feeling particularly stressed one week and have found you're more forgetful than usual, because this is a very good sign of stress. And it can cause and lead to depression or anxiety, none of which stands us in good stead to have our personal life and work life optimized. But these micro stress doses build up over time, and they set your stress response off in the exact same way as the big life threats. So it's so important to understand how we have to look after our system to calm that down. Because what happens, which so many of us do not realize, and then we wonder why we feel this sudden stress or anxiety, is that our body today sees the modern day threats in the exact same way it used to align. Your mind and body can't differentiate an actual life threat in front of you to something that causes you stress in the modern day, like a stressful email. So your body's system hasn't changed in that way. Your stress response hasn't changed since, caveman times. So whereas the immediate life threat would, boost alertness and help you run away, and then you'd calm your system down because you knew that the threat was over. What happens now is it's continually being activated without you realizing behind the scenes. And then your body builds this up over time. And this results in wear and tear and mental exhaustion, etc., because it still sees it as a threat. And the largest catch, which so many people don't realize, and this is so important to remember, is that we can automatically, and we do automatically, stimulate our body's stress response by imaginary threats in the exact same way we do when they're happening in front of us in reality. So worrying and envisioning something that is stressful to you, like we all do, whether that's that deadline or something in your relationship or something you've forgotten to do, and thinking of that in your mind, worrying about that triggers the exact same stress response as if what you were worrying about was happening in that moment. So in this modern day age, where life is complicated, as we all know, fast-paced, and everyone's expected to always be available all the time, that alone can cause a buildup of stress if not dealt with, and it does. So it's all about learning how to calm our systems down, how to prevent the buildup, so that when the big things happen, you can deal with it more effectively and you can bounce back quicker. And on the day-to-day things, you don't feel stressed about them, because that's our aim. That's what we all want. So this is where the prevent rather than cure mentality is so important. And we need to make looking after our minds as normal as we do brushing our teeth in the morning. You wouldn't expect to not brush your teeth and every day and then have pearly whites. And the same thing goes to look after our minds. So we don't, and then we wonder why stress and anxiety build up, or why we feel fatigued, distracted, irritable, and unclear. And this is because we as human beings have this insufferable need to have to hit rock bottom before we think we should get help. And the same goes with stress. For some reason, we push ourselves to the point where we have to feed it physically, or we burn out before we actually do something about it. And by this time, we've already damaged our bodies, our minds, our well-being, our relationships, probably our energy, our happiness, and even our focus, because we are actually 31% more productive when we're working from a calm and happy headspace instead of a stressed and negative one. And obviously, the common misconception is that stress, you work better under pressure. And although that can be good for a very short amount of time, like when you're giving a talk, or, you know, when you have a deadline to meet in a few days, continually working like that makes you 31% less productive. So in the same way we try to look after our bodies so that we don't get overweight, and we try to take preventative measures to eat healthily and keep moving, we must also do the same for our minds. So you may be one of two people here, like either sat thinking nothing particularly stressful is going on in my life right now and I'm okay, or you're feeling overwhelmed and really stressed and like you never have a moment to stop at the moment and you're always on the hamster wheel and you can't switch off. Either one needs to look after their mind for the exact reasons I've just discussed. Look after it so that we can bounce back from stress 10 times faster when it happens, and so that we can remain calm within the modern day stress and tell our bodies and our systems that it's not under threat, because those micro stress doses, whether you're feeling particularly stressed or not, will be telling your body it's under threat. And we need to make sure that's not the case so that we can achieve our optimal state of happiness and calm. So for me, calmness is a skill, is what I believe. In the same way that we were all born happy, I also believe we were all born calm. So no baby's first words are ever, I'm so stressed. I don't think anyone's ever heard that come out of a child's mouth as its first sentence. But calmness and happiness are our natural states. But life happens and we learn to be stressed from our environments, the events that go on around us, the micro stress doses flooding our system, and how other people are behaving as well. So we absorb it mentally and energetically. And today, calmness is a skill, because if it wasn't, then the whole world would be calm. And when we look around, it is far from it. But I believe, luckily, that it's only our forgotten skill, because it's our natural state, and then we just need to relearn it. So from my long relationship with stress over the last 10 years, I've come to know that it's a two-pillar process of calming and getting to know your mind, and connecting and understanding your soul, or if you don't like that word, your inner self, your true self. So today I want to give you some tactical solutions for doing exactly that, looking after and calming your mind, giving it space so that it can be as healthy and happy as possible, so that you make space to tap into your soul a bit more as well and feel that calm energy that's within all of us. So it's about creating stillness for you. But how do we create stillness for the mind so that it has the proper care it needs towards its well-being? And when it comes to looking after your mind, this is so important. So when it comes to looking after your mind, the things you think you don't have time for are actually the exact things you need to make time for. This is so important because micro stress doses are constantly flooding our system. Like I said, anything from the irritating email, the news headline, the multiple pictures of friends on holiday on Instagram, or doing things that you wished you were. These are all micro stress doses, and micro stress doses don't just vanish. We absorb them, whether we want to or not. They change your mood and your biology. So social media, for example, makes our emotional brains overactive. So you have your rational side of the brain and your emotional side. And when you look around and see everyone around you having the best time, and you're not that day or week, or you see people doing incredibly in work and you're not that day this week, that emotionally makes us feel like we're failing, and when we're not. And that gives your brain the information that you are under threat. So your brain senses danger, even when there's none present, and your stress response goes on without you realizing in the background. So the first thing I want to talk to you about is a daily digital detox, and how many different ways we can implement this, and how you can then choose for yourself which ones, you choose them all if you like, there's quite a lot, but take one, take two, So 2 or 1, and just implement that and see how that changes so you can create space for your mind. So the first thing I say this to all my one-to-one clients, and some of them have a lot of resistance around it because we are so attached to our phones and devices, is when you are, well, most people working from home now, but getting home in the evening or working from home in the evening or being at home in the evening, make sure you put your phone in a drawer for 1 hour away from you. 1 hour away from your phone in a drawer so that you do not have the craving to pick it up, so that it isn't distracting you with notifications or calls or whatever, and just truly be present with whoever you spend time with in the evening, whether that's your partner or your children, a friend, or even just yourself if you live on your own. Just taking time for an hour away from your phone. And ask yourself, do I really need to always carry my phone around with me all the time? Because we have this habit of constantly having them in our pockets. And do I need to personally post every experience on social media if you do? Some people need to for work, and that's a different ball game, but some people really don't. So ask yourself, how often, do I need to post every experience, and why am I doing this? Is it because I'm struggling to switch off and I use this as a bit of comfort? What purpose is this really serving me? So a daily digital detox for 1 hour, phone in a drawer when you get home in the evening. And don't look at it, just be fully present in your own company or with someone else, and create that space for your mind. We struggle to leave our phones and our feeds alone because they've created reward pathways in our brains, sadly. So they hit us with dopamine every time we get a like or a WhatsApp message or a comment. So this is what keeps us coming back for more. So we have to train our brains to create space. So what you practice with your mind gets stronger, either good or bad. So we have to make a conscious effort to rewire our brains to create the good pathways that are going to benefit us as well. So putting a reminder on your phone for the amount of time, lots of people have screen time. If you have an iPhone, I'm not sure what it is on Android, but there's ways of being able to see how much you're using certain apps. And if you look, you'll actually shock yourself at how long you can spend on WhatsApp or social media. And putting a reminder on certain apps for the amount of time you actually want to spend on it that day. Realistically, how much time do you want to spend a day? Most people, without realizing, will have spent about 3 hours when they check their phone, just from constantly checking in. I'm not saying 3 hours ongoingly, but the constant check-ins. So looking at how long you want to spend and putting a reminder on so that you become mindful and you think, oh, wow, okay, I've done that for today. That's enough. Because studies now confirm that when we complete a task but are distracted while doing it on a smartphone or with multiple tabs open on our browser, so if we're doing a task, writing away, doing something, and then you see your phone flash up with something and you go to either answer that WhatsApp or you look at Instagram or you look at Facebook or whatever it is, or you check that email. Studies now show that that's the equivalent to the same loss of IQ from missing a whole night's sleep. So you perform 10 points lower than you normally would in your IQ when you do that, which is a huge, huge amount. And with our phones constantly being at our sides, we're going through our whole lives less intelligently than we should be, sadly. So here are some more tips to mute your digital world. And like I said, you can choose one or two. Please do choose one or two and implement them or use them all, but just choose ones that feel best for you. But I would say one to definitely do is the drawer for 1 hour in the evening. So yeah, have your tech non 1 hour, including your laptop as well. You don't have to put that in a drawer, but definitely your phone. Give yourself, 2 daily half hours to check social media so that it doesn't become the default thing you do when you're having a moment of distraction. Batch your emails, find a time to set a daily time to batch your emails if you can, so that you look at your emails at certain times of the day to minimize that distraction. An automatic response, if you need to tell people, you'll be responding at those times if you think people will be worried about that sort of not quick response, or urgent to call if you can. Then looking at intermittent phone fasting. So I'm sure you probably all have heard of the intermittent fasting diet that people do, like 5-2. So for your phone, you want to try something called 4-1. And that's simply, you know, having it on for 4 hours, and then for the 1 hour after, put it on airplane mode so you know you're not distracted during that time and you're not having all those micro stress doses. You can also look at muting WhatsApp groups that are constantly going off, and Facebook groups, you know, chat groups, so that you know the times you check them and you're not constantly, again, being flooded with that. And taking notes on paper rather than on your phone. Studies now show that, you know, when we take notes on paper, we have a much deeper understanding of it and a deeper connection to what we're writing, so we're more likely to remember it. So trying to do that, because I know we're also, it's so easy to just do it on our notes on the go, obviously, but then if you are at home, just take it down on paper. And if you have an iPhone, you can switch your phone to grayscale. So this makes your phone a lot less desirable than when it's in colors. So black and white, you'll find you actually will check your phone a lot less because it's far less interesting in black and white. And also taking the news app off your phone. So limiting the time that you flood your system with that sort of, you know, fear-based negative news cycles, because sadly, without, well, like I said, our brains are hardwired to look for the negative and for the threats. And if you're constantly flooding your system with that, then your subconscious, without you wanting to or realizing, because the news is never happy as we know it, your subconscious will constantly look for the negative for the rest of the day automatically. And then you'll feel more stressed or irritated. So limiting that, and tracking your usage. So those are some tips for detoxing your technology. Like I said, you know, implement 1, 2, all of them if you like, but really do try, because it really creates some space and limits those micro stress doses a bit. So the antidote to technology is nature. And this is because nature is expansive. It forces our brains to look outwards, while tech encourages it to look inwards. Being in nature tells your brain and your body that you're in a restful place, versus your smartphone and your devices give you an abundance of information that tells your brain you're in a realm of pressure. So nature is profoundly good for us, for our minds, for our energy, simply because we are actually all a part of it. And so, as we know, humans are all part of the animal kingdom. We've evolved in nature for millions of years, but we've removed ourselves from it. That's why we have to make sure that we connect to it as and when we can. And that's why we feel so connected to the open air. And studies now prove that when we spend time in nature, it improves our focus, reduces anxiety, reduces stress, and it even improves our job satisfaction. But it also helps us to connect to our inner self and calm energy and our soul self, which is so important when managing stress. So looking at what we call forest bathing as a first thing. So that's simply spending time amongst trees, on a walk, in a park, in the country, in your garden, wherever it is. And obviously this can be done in a city. You know, I'm in London, I go to the park to do this, because experts argue that trees emit, you know, essential oils, and which are natural protection from germs for them. And with these oils, studies now show that when we're subjected to these in the open air, that it reduces our blood pressure, lowers stress again, improves depression symptoms, improves sleep, improves memory, lowers cortisol, the stress hormone, lowers blood sugar levels, which increase when we're really stressed, and it enhances our immune function. So it really is just so beneficial. And grounding yourself in nature, which is something I'm going to teach you now, is something that really just resets your energy within 5 minutes. And you can also ground yourself inside when you need to, when you're feeling anxious. When we have very anxious energy, we feel essentially very ungrounded. And so what you want to do is ground yourself. So grounding yourself in nature to start with. In the summer, if you can go barefoot on the grass, that's the greatest way to connect. Standing next to a tree as well, and breathing and walking in that space. So to ground yourself for anxious energy and to calm your system down, as I said, when we're in nature, it automatically, when you're feeling that calmness and you ground yourself in it, it tells your stress response that you're not under threat and you're at peace. So it's a really good way to switch off your micro stress doses, having switched it on without you realizing. So to ground yourself in nature, you simply want to close your eyes for 1 moment, wherever you are, you know, even, you know, stop walking for 1 second, plant your feet firmly on the ground and come back into your body. So feel the weight in your feet, feel your hands drop, just feel and be fully present within your own body. Take a deep breath in and then repeat in your mind or out loud, I am grounded. And just imagine, even as well, if you're a visual person, energy going down through your feet into the ground, and just taking 2 big deep breaths in after that. And the reason we state I am grounded is because our brain's answer to everything is essentially yes, good or bad. Like I said, what you practice gets stronger. And if you say I am grounded, your brain says yes. If you say I am anxious, your brain says yes. So you have to be really mindful about what you're telling yourself as well. So, grounding ourselves, it increases our ability to solve problems and break through creative blocks, and nature calms our system. So I would say, some tips for adding more nature to your life as well. If you feel like you can't get into nature as much as you'd like to that day, putting sounds of nature on an app to help you relax in the evening to fall asleep is proven to suppress your stress activation. Setting your lock screen background to a calming picture of nature, so that every time you're tempted to look at your phone, you get a dose of nature instead of something else. And getting some houseplants as well is also really good for calming your system, and lighting nature scented candles. So those are all some little tips to add some extra nature to your environment when you can't get out into it. And then the final tools I want to talk to you about are breathing. So breathing to create space within yourself and your mind. So stillness within your mind through your breath. The stress that comes with 20 browser tabs, open, and social media flying at you, multiple messages, trying to grab your attention, that all makes us feel in a particular way. So we tend to feel a bit panicky and anxious and a bit overwhelmed, and our pulse rate increases. So the quickest, most effective way of reducing stress in any given moment, to helping you calm your system down, is your breath. And we all have continual access to this for free at any time. So it's time to really use that. Yet so much of the modern day life prevents us from breathing properly. So when we're hunched over our computer, you're not breathing properly. When you're bending over a device, you're not breathing properly. When you're wearing a slightly tighter pair of trousers or a dress, you're not breathing properly. When we're holding our stomachs in the way that the world now wants us to, we're not breathing properly. Because if we're not breathing with our stomach, then we're not breathing effectively. And that sends us close to a stress state. And I'm not saying we have to breathe through our stomachs all the time with our stomachs, and I'll show you how in a moment. But, it's looking at actually how often do you take a big deep breath in through the day through your diaphragm, which is something I'm going to talk about now. We spend a lot of time shallowly breathing in our chest. And as your breathing quickens and shallows, that's what happens when you're under threat. So whether you notice or not, if you're shallowly breathing through your chest all day, you are unconsciously constantly telling your body you're under threat again. And if you slept badly and you wake up feeling a bit tired and stressed and anxious, just some simple breath work will alter your biology and get you closer to thrive state instead of stress state. So as I said, shallow breath tells the body you're under threat in the chest, and slow deep breath tells the brain that you are in a place of calm. So some breathing techniques for you. I'm going to give you a few now again, so you can just choose which ones you like the most. But so diaphragmatic breathing is the first. So even if you don't do diaphragmatic breathing every day, try and do it every other day for 2 minutes, or 100% every week, because diaphragmatic breathing lowers cortisol and it increases our levels of mental function. Unconscious breathing, which we're all doing all the time, it only allows our diaphragm to move about 1 centimeter. So in your chest, when we're always breathing up here, that allows your diaphragm to move 1 centimeter. And that's far from optimal, but it's enough to function. So when we concentrate on diaphragmatic breath, we can move it downwards by up to 10 centimeters. So you can see the difference in what intake is actually happening to your body to calm it down. Because when we look at diaphragmatic breath, okay, if any of you have a young baby right now, if you notice the way a baby breathes, it's with its stomach puffing up and down. That's because, again, we're all born calm, and that is our natural way to breathe. So we really have to retrain ourselves to make sure that we do actually breathe through our diaphragm every week, every other day, every day, to make sure that that system gets activated. So it improves, a huge impact on the amount of oxygen in our system, again, telling us that we're calm. So simply now, I'll show you how to diaphragmatically breathe. If you put one hand on your chest and you put one hand on your diaphragm, which is there. So what you want to notice when you breathe in, and you can breathe in through your nose or your mouth, whatever feels more comfortable for you for this. You take a big deep breath in. What you want to notice is that this hand goes out before this hand goes out. So when we're breathing shallowly, if you breathe into your chest, you would feel this come up and maybe that come up slightly at the end. Whereas when it's diaphragmatically, you want to feel that lower hand on your diaphragm breathe out first, so that, push out first when you breathe in. And then when you breathe out, this hand will go out on the way out. So it's like that sort of flow like this, and just taking, a moment, try it out for one moment. Take a big deep breath in through your nose or in through your mouth, whatever's more comfortable, and just expanding that diaphragm area. And then when you breathe out, notice your chest goes out a bit on the out, up a bit on the out, and your diaphragm will go back in. So you want to do, 2 to 5 minutes of diaphragmatic breathing. Even just taking 3 diaphragmatic breaths will have a big difference. And you may notice that you're very tight in that area because it's not used to being used. So you really want to try and expand it as much as possible. The next little breath tool I'd love to teach you is called the 4-4-8 breath, which is one of my favorites because it's so easy to remember. You can put a post-it on your computer saying 4-4-8 to remind you, or on your phone background, anything. And it's a great way of quickly calming your system down. So it's simply breathing in through your nose for 4, holding for 4, and breathing out of your mouth for 8. So in through your nose for 4, hold for 4, breathe out of your mouth for 8. And this calms our system down very quickly. It also actually connects you to your divine nature as well. And it's really good for calming your energetic system down. So all you need to do is repeat that 3 times or more for it to have some effect. And if you're feeling particularly stressed and you really want to calm down, putting a timer on, or just, breathing for 2 minutes in that pattern, or 2 to 5 minutes, and just really connecting. So, we can do that all together now. I can't see your faces, so I'll just do it myself. But you can just breathe in through your nose, and then you hold. So I'll do the whole round. So breathing in through your nose for 4, 3, 2, 1, and hold. 4, 3, 2, and exhale. 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. So that's the kind of pattern, as you can see, and it's in through the nose, out through the mouth, as I said. And like I said, put an alarm on your phone, a labeled alarm, saying, 4-4-8, or a post-it to remind yourself. And another tip I would say for sure is, if you are someone who doesn't take time to breathe, put a labeled alarm on, quiet silence. So it just comes up on your phone 3 times a day, just saying breathe. And just take 2 minutes. That's all it takes. And everyone has 2 minutes. Everyone has 5 minutes. So, just take 2 minutes to breathe for that moment when that alarm comes up, and just either do diaphragmatic breathing or do the 4-4-8 breath, and just notice that stillness and calmness come back into your system. Of course, the most profound effect for breathing is meditation. And with meditation, we develop, clarity of the mind, we're able to detach ourselves from the experience of our stress and instead become an observer. So instead of being, saying things like, I'm feeling stressed, it becomes more, I'm noticing at the moment that I'm feeling a bit stressed, or there's a bit of stress in my life at the moment. What can I do about this? So meditation weakens something in our minds called the me center, the connection to that center, and that is that worry center that's all around ourselves. And it allows us to have a greater gap to be able to pause and respond instead of react. It's just the most incredible tool. Studies show, how much decreases stress, helps us reduce anxiety, improve focus, improve our ability to solve problems, boost our immune system. And like I said, that space, weakening that connection to the me center so that we are able to respond instead of react. So there's so many different things I could talk to you about meditation. I won't go into them all today because that's a whole separate topic. But what I like to talk to you about is the breath side of it. So simply, you know, concentrating and being mindful on your breath is a form of meditation. So simply, you know, getting into a comfortable position, you want to make sure you're comfy, because when we're not, if you're not uncomfy, you'll spend the entire time you're supposed to be meditating and breathing, thinking about how uncomfortable you are. So comfort is key. Getting into a comfy position, you know, sitting up or lying down if it's in the evening, and just closing your eyes, putting your palms facing upwards in your lap, plant your feet on the ground if you're sat in a chair, or cross your legs, you know, relax your back, put some support behind there if you need to, and just put some relaxing music on, or silence if you like, because stillness is always wonderful as well. And just simply put a timer on for 5 minutes and just concentrate on your breath, you know, breathing in deeply or doing the 4-4-8 sequence, and just getting really present with your breath. And when you feel your mind wander into a thought, don't get annoyed with yourself. Don't judge yourself for having that thought or thinking you can't meditate. You know, meditation is also about getting to know your mind, not just stillness. So just notice that and then come back to your breath. And the 4-4-8 breath is a really good one to do because of your counting. You're more likely to stay with it. So just, you know, taking 5 minutes a day to sit with your own breath and meditate in that way. It really is, as I said, so you'll see such a difference in your life. I always say, you know, 5 minutes of meditation will calm your system, 10 minutes will really, you know, reset your brain, and 12 minutes, 20 minutes will change your life. So really just taking, it's all about implementing 5 minutes here and there in our day to tell our system, to tell our minds that we are okay, we're not under threat. So those are some tips to get you started with your breath, then nature, grounding, digital detox. Hopefully you have a greater understanding today for why, you know, it is so important to prevent stress as much as cure it, to not just think, well, I'm not burnt out, I'm not really stressed right now, I don't have to do anything. It really, as I've said, for all the reasons before, it matters more than ever, especially now because we are in information overload. And this year in particular has been unprecedentedly stressful for people, and we need to learn how to be able to cope with that and increase our resilience. So, you know, learning to calm your mind and to tap into the natural calmness of your soul, it is arguably one of the greatest strengths there is, because when we let the outside stresses in our life and the built up stresses in our body and our mind take over, then we've not only put our health and happiness at risk, but also, you know, our ability to execute really well with excellence in the professional and personal decisions that matter the most to us. So outside stress, as we know, and as we've seen this year, it's always going to keep appearing. That's simply life. But it's up to you to decide how you want to answer to it. And as I said before, calmness is a skill. It's a skill that will help you make a large and truly sustainable impact in the world around you, because it brings out the very best of yourself. So the question you have to ask yourself is, you know, are you the calmest person you know? And if not, don't you want to be? So that's the sort of end of my talk today. As Paul said, you know, I do coaching, and I've now started this membership. So I've actually given him an exclusive offer for you guys, because for all joining the webinar today, to have a discount for 6 months on my online monthly membership. So the membership, it's basically the low cost option for keeping yourself calm and stress free. It's more support than a meditation app. But it's, you know, 2 sessions with me a month like this in different themes, and guest experts that I know from around the world. It's meditations guided, a calming tool every month, extra podcasts, an online community, and just basically, yeah, that in the pocket, because it can also come on an app, support that you need to keep you calm and stress free and help you to become the calmest person you know. So if the link I will put in the group for anyone that's interested in that, because it's just your it's usually £28 a month, but I'm giving it to you guys for £22 a month. So it was so wonderful, and I hope if anyone has any questions, then please put them in the chat box, or Paul, I think, will send them my way.
Yeah, fantastic. That was it was wonderful, Alice. It was great to have you back on. I forgot how calming it is listening to you. Yeah, definitely. If anyone has got any questions, then please feel free. This is your chance to kind of have a chat live, definitely. So please feel free. And as Alice mentioned, she's kind of put together something really nice and special for all the members of the BSN. So we're going to be putting that up, links onto our groups later on today and after this. So one of the things that I particularly liked was the bits and pieces about switching off the stuff on the mobile devices, and I think the news app is it's probably the biggest one of them all, isn't it? And we all get kind of sucked in with the bad news that we hear almost every single day at the moment.
Yeah, exactly. It is, and we all get those, the alerts, don't you? If you have the BBC News app, and suddenly it's the worst headline coming in at a moment when you were probably having a nice time or having a calm moment for yourself. So the news app one, it's so addictive, but it's also at the moment particularly, it's a really great thing to turn off.
Yeah, it seems to have got into overdrive this year, especially. So we're not having many questions coming through, but what we are getting is some wonderful comments, and I'm not sure the people that are watching live on Facebook can see the comments coming through, but they're saying thank you very much for sharing your experience, giving so much practical advice. Thank you so much. Great tools for calming. Thank you. Thanks for arranging. Everybody's been so supportive, and it seems like it seems like a lot of people are getting a lot from it. Somebody has asked, do you recommend closing eyes when doing the breathing techniques?
I do, if you can, because that really helps you to get more within yourself and just not be distracted by what's going around you. So if you can do it and close your eyes, that has an even better effect for your system.
Good stuff. That's what we'd like to hear. Brilliant. So Alice, do you want to put the link for your bits and pieces in the chat box? And as I say, we'll make sure that goes up on our groups today as well. So
absolutely.
So everybody's got access to that. And off we go.
Find the link for the chat box. 1 second. Here we go. Perfect.
When you were speaking about nature as well, Alice, how often do you personally kind of get out to make sure that you kind of follow those tips yourself?
Yeah, so I get into nature every day, whether it's, I don't have time to go to the park every day. If I don't have time, that's fine. But I'll go to the park, a few times a week, and I will make sure that I go for a walk every day just for 10 minutes, because we all have 10 minutes, and it's so good to move your body and your system for stress, and also helps you create space for your mind. You'll find you actually get a lot more answers and clarity. If you're struggling in work and think, I don't know how to solve this problem, or something in your personal life, get out and go for a walk, because that creates space in your mind, and it ignites a part of your brain that helps you to actually problem solve, as opposed to be completely stumped in your own world. And if you're in the city, just go for a walk, and you'll see a tree around. Take a moment to just stand by that. Go to the park, even just standing and walking around in your own garden if you have one. Just trying to connect to it in some little way every day, and in some big way, twice a week.
Good stuff. It's interesting because inadvertently, when I was in the office 5 days a week, I always used to make a point, if I wasn't going out for a run or gym or whatever, to make sure that I went out at lunchtime to just kind of, I didn't even think about the kind of benefits of it. It's just kind of get away. And then when you think back, you think actually after that moment of taking, a bit of a deep breath and away from things, you do feel a lot more productive at the end of it, don't you?
Yeah, you do. And it's like I said, it's the exact thing of, me mentioning before, like what you think you don't have time for is exactly what your mind needs, or what you think you're too busy for is what your mind needs more than anything. So you will be more productive when you take those moments, take those 5 minutes, take that half an hour for a walk, 10 minutes, whatever it is. Take those moments to breathe. Just thinking that you don't have time is the reason why you do have to.
Good stuff. Somebody's asking if somebody says the grounding sounds good, even though the weather's changing. Do you still find it effective in the different seasons throughout the year?
Yeah, absolutely. I do. I know no one really wants to go and ground themselves in the rain, but wait till that stops and do that afterwards. And like I said, you can also just to ground your energy in general, just you can do that inside as well. But it's most effective outside to get into nature. But you can just ground your energy inside as well if it's diabolical out there.
Good stuff. Okay, brilliant. Well, look, thanks so much for your time today, Alice. It's been great to have you back on. And yeah, as I say, we'll pop all of the bits and pieces up on our group pages. So if anyone's watching the replay of that, I know they've become particularly popular now, whilst people are working a lot more and other things to do. Now we're kind of, well, I say we're easing out of lockdown, who knows? but yeah, all of those links will be up in the group pages. So thanks once again for joining us, Alice. It's been fantastic having you back on.
Thank you so much for having me, and to everyone for joining today. I hope you took some things away from it. And yeah, if you'd like sort of ongoing support, as Paul said, I will put all the information in the group.
Good stuff. Just before you go, somebody's just quickly asked what the title of your book is.
It's called The Law of Brand Attraction. So it's a co-authored book with 12 different people, and mine's obviously about brand attraction for looking after your mind and how that affects your business. And it's different methods and different people, and mine's all about stress. So yeah, so that's what that one is.
Fantastic. And can we get that on Amazon?
Yeah, you can. Yeah.
Good stuff. The go-to place for anything, I guess.
Exactly.
Brilliant. Well, look, thanks so much for your time, and thanks to everyone that's joined us. Great to have you on board. Thank you, everyone, for your really kind comments. It's lovely to see them coming through, and thanks for your unrivaled support as always. It means everything to us. So thank you to everyone involved.
Thank you.
Cheers. See you later.
Bye.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye.